what have you learned about yourself or learned in general over the course of the last 70 plus podcasts?
So the biggest thing that I have learned in the past 70 podcasts is that I have a lot more to learn. That's what I learned. Mm-hmm. And the amount of information out there that will help us get better and smarter and more effective as humans, the amount of information is pretty boundless. And also, you also see the repetitive themes that we see over and over again that constantly come up and reinforce themselves. Now, with that, I think that seeing these repetitive themes, but each with its own little angle, have given me a better, I don't want to say a better understanding, but I guess I don't know what other word to use, a more granular understanding of human nature and of leadership and of war and of life. Because you get to learn, nothing teaches better than experience, but you can't experience 1,000 years of life in reality, but through reading and understanding and seeing what other people have gone through, you do get some level of experience. And I know you just did the FTX with Echelon Front. You went to shoot some video with Leif and JP. And for those of you that don't know, Echelon Front, we do leadership and management consulting, and sometimes we do field training exercises where we take people out and we teach them how to shoot, and then we teach them some fundamental tactics of fire and maneuver, and then we give them missions to accomplish. And so, you I know you just went out to do your first one, and when you got back, you said, I kind of felt a little bit of what it's like to be in a firefight, and then you kind of backed off. You're like, well, no, I didn't, I'm not trying to say that. And I said, no, actually, you did feel a little bit of what it is like to be in a firefight, because you saw people maneuvering and you were getting hit with plastic rounds that hurt, and you knew you needed to get down, and you saw other people getting frustrated, and you saw people getting flustered. Is it exactly like combat? No. And there's also the step up to real combat is huge, because now you're going to die if you screw up. But there is a glimpse, and there is a certain level of understanding that you absolutely gain from those scenarios that you're put into. And it's the same thing when you read a book and you read it the right way and you gather the information from it. You don't have the experience itself, but there's no doubt you can learn from it. So I think for me, that's the biggest thing, is really reading with a lot of intent to pull lessons out, seeing the multiple lessons, seeing the different things from different angles. And I've talked about this before. When you learn an arm lock from 7 different instructors, they each teach you something a little bit different and something that works and some detail that you didn't see. And then on top of that, when you learn an arm lock from the bottom and from the top and from the guard and from the closed guard and from the open guard and from this cross side and from the mount, every one of those different angles that you learn it from, you get better. You get it. Each one of those angles makes you better at the other angles too. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the biggest thing for me, is just learning how much I didn't know, and then taking what I can bring on board and assimilating it into my view and understanding. Like I said, my view and understanding of the world, of human nature, of war, and of life. Yeah. It's been fun for me and educational.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously I approach this thing from a different position, but the no complaining thing, where people would be like, no complaining, I think that really got reinforced in me. It's one of those things where, what is it? Who said it? Yoda, where he says, either do or do not. There is no try. So a little bit different. It's either you do it. Yeah, Yoda said that in Empire Strikes
from the
Back.
Star Wars series.
Empire Strikes Back, yeah.
Okay.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Got it.
He said a lot of other cool shit. But nonetheless, when when you're tasked with something, or your, wife asks you to do something or whatever, you either do it or you don't do it. Don't do it and complain about it the whole time. And that's a common thing, where it's like, all right, I'll do it, and then they'll do it, then they'll complain about while they're doing it, or after they do it, or before they do, or before, during, and after they, So it's one of those things where, and don't even complain in I'm just saying, this is what I've kind of learned overall, and it's weird, because this wasn't necessarily a specific lesson, but it kind of just gets incorporated into your brain where you just kind of don't even complain in your own head, when you I don't know, sweep
Shut
the
it
floor.
down.
I don't know. You're like, I can't believe I'm sweeping the floor. What about all this other stuff that I do and all this stuff? Don't even do that. Be like, okay, I'm tasked with, just like how you compared it to doing paperwork. Where you're like, yeah, good. You don't want to do paperwork. No one in the world wants to do paperwork. Yeah, but you do the paperwork and you do that. You crush it, as you say. You do that paperwork the best you can.
I'm gonna crush this paperwork.
Yeah, exactly. So, man, if I gotta sweep the floor, I gotta, wash dishes, I gotta whatever. I'm gonna do this the best I can. In fact, take pride in that. Take pride, not necessarily even in washing of the dishes. I say, yeah, take pride in that, but not necessarily just that. Take pride in the fact that you're the guy who can wash the dishes that good. Depend on me. Hell yeah, I can do that. Give me more stuff. I'll do it more. Maybe not say that last part because you have other things to do sometimes. But I'm saying anything you're tasked with, do it the best you can. That even sounds kind of cliche. Like, oh, I've heard that. Just do everything the best you can. But to really have that happen kind of in your mind where you regard all your tasks, whether you like them or not, that way where you can do them the best you can, that's a life improving situation.
Yeah. And going back to what I just thought of this while you were talking. General Mattis, he said the other day there was an article about him because he's extremely well read and he has a personal library of 7,000 books. Very smart, very well educated, very well read. But what he said is very similar to what I said. He said, I'm not going to get surprised because what I'm going to face on the battlefield, someone else has faced before. And he made a couple comparisons. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but when I saw this, he said, when I saw this for the first time, I remembered this historical situation. When I saw that for the first time, I remembered this historical situation. So I never was surprised by what I was seeing because I had seen it before. Maybe only in a book, but at least you have a heads up.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking for. And what's cool is if you extrapolate the war, which is what we're doing on this podcast, taking the war piece of it and extrapolating the human nature piece of it, and that's going to give you a broad look at the way people act, the way humans act and interact. And that's what I think has been really good for me to just really. The other thing is when you teach a jiu-jitsu move and you get better at it, just by teaching it, and you understand it more. Well, for me, by writing the notes and putting them in the podcast and then thinking about which direction I'm going to go and what I'm going to talk about, I've learned it better. I've become things that I may have known instinctively before and done for 10 years, just like when we wrote Extreme Ownership. There was things in there that I said, as I was writing what happened, I'm like, oh yeah, I did it here. I used to do it there. This is where I learned it. But I never really thought about it until, and even going before that, when I took over the training for the West Coast SEAL teams, the first time I wrote down the laws of combat, the 4 fundamental laws of combat.
Yeah.
I had known those. I had acted that. I had performed them for years. I had never written them down until I took over training and saw a platoon and said, these guys aren't doing these things that would make them successful. Boom, I wrote them down. That was it.
Yeah.
And once I wrote them down and started to talk about them and show guys, they made even more sense. And I saw them even easier when people would make a mistake. So I think that's what's been good for me, is it's been a real great mental exercise.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for listening and making me do this podcast once a week, whether I like it or not.
Yeah. And actually, and that's another thing where,
we almost went to one podcast every 2 weeks. And so I was just talking to a buddy of mine that's in a company that I was talking about. He was one of the few guys when I kind of was thinking about this idea of going to one podcast every 2 weeks. And we were driving. His name is Mike, and great guy, great leader. And we're driving, and I said, hey, we were driving to go do some work. Was working with his company. And I said, I'm thinking about, maybe doing the podcast once every 2 weeks instead of once a week. And he was driving and I was just the passenger. And all of a sudden, he just kind of, he said, hey, I don't think that's a good idea. And I was like, oh my God, and he said, look, you can't do that. You know, we're listening to the podcast. We expect it to come out on Wednesday. It's got to come out on Wednesday. And then he was like, okay. And he compromised a little. He says, look, if you're going to do it, then you need to give us a 6-month warning so people can start to get used to it. And that was one of the things that swayed me to say, you know what, I need to hold the line on the podcast. And that was the other thing. It's hard. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hey, Jocko, Mr. sitting around saying, hey, if it's hard, do it anyways. And here I was, it was kind of hard, so I was going to stop doing it. Yeah. No. Hold the line, Jocko. I'm talking to you, Jocko. Practice what you preach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard. You got to read a book and you got to underline, take some. Oh, so what? Do it anyways.
Yeah, there it is.
Bring it.
All right. Yeah. It's true.
So you can thank Mike for the podcast continually coming out on once a week.
Yep, every week. Thanks, Mike. But one of the other things, kind of like what you were saying a second ago, is you kind of either do it and get it done. Like, this is what personally in my experience, I'm speaking from experience, where like you'll ask about something like, hey, what's the status on this or that? So it's either done or it's not done. Like, where you can't be, I would have done that, but, I did all this stuff. All that stuff after you said I would have done that, but, like, that doesn't matter at all. Either you did it or you didn't do it. Either you were like, kind of like how Leif says, you're either effective or you're ineffective kind of thing. And the more, and I think has a lot to do with just hanging around you more, where I'd tell you about something and you'd be like, okay, is this done or whatever? Or is this about to be done or where are we on this? And then I'll say, oh yeah, it's done. Then it's like, okay, you have this kind of look of, okay, like solid, like thumbs up kind of thing. But if I say, no, not yet because of this, right when I go into because, you have this kind of weird haze that goes over you. Like, you don't care. You're nice. Well, and you're not like, what do you mean? You're not like that at all. But I can see the little haze go over you, like you don't care at all about these excuses that I'm about to say or these justifications that I'm about to make.
Quite well.
Yeah. So, and that was early on. Now I just know it's automatic. It's like either the answer is yes or no. And if it's no and it should have been done, then next time I see it should be done. And that applies to everything. And I make the analogy the story where my brother would be like, hey, buy me some wine. I'm like, wine? You ever been into a wine section? Bro, it's huge. Hey, give me this wine. It's called this. It's called this. It's the Cabernet. I don't know. Whatever you call them.
That should be like the beef jerky section. That's how big the beef jerky section should be.
Bro. Yeah, it should be. But no, as of now, it's wine. And if you go in there and you want some specific wine, and it's easy to go in there and be like, you know what? This wine section is too vast. I'm either going to grab any wine I see, and that's it, or I'm not going to get it. Don't task me with this big I'm just going in here to get some lettuce.
The struggle is real.
And, you got me treasure hunting in the wine section, and so I'm not going to do that. But I had it in my mind that I'm like, no, you want some wine? You want this one? All right, well, I'm going to get it. So, because when I come home.
You're not playing around.
Yeah, when I come home, either I got the wine or I didn't get the wine. And you don't want to be the guy who didn't get the wine. Dude. No matter what your excuse is. I'm telling you, bro. Apply that to everything. Apply that to something important,
Jade's wine is important, by the way.
So unimportant. Jeez. Nonetheless, yeah. All good things we got from this podcast, I think.
I would concur.
Next question.
You know what else is cool about this podcast?
What?
Is hearing from people that have made some awesome progress.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. That is actually the best thing about the podcast.
Yeah.
Is hearing from people out in the field that got promoted, got a new job, moved to a leadership position, lost 72 pounds, gained 12 pounds of lean muscle mass, whatever the achievement was. I talked to a guy the other day that stopped biting his nails.
Dang,
right? Like, you don't think much of it, but he said he bit his nails for 34 straight years and tried the little nail polish that goes on there, and you go to the hypnotist and you go to all these different things. No, and you know what he finally said? I'm not going to bite my nails anymore.
Right?
Not going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to impose my will.
Yeah. Switch to
and
manual.
Boom, done.
Yeah.
So hearing everybody that does that kind of thing is awesome. That's definitely the most. So I guess I'm going into not what I learned, but the general overall reward of the podcast is to talk to people that have made some significant progress in their life, and they attribute that progress to listening to the podcast, which I always reattribute when they comment about it back to them, because I didn't stop biting your nails. You did. I didn't lose 72 pounds. You did. I didn't get promoted. You did. Yeah. That's you. That's not me. That's you.
Yeah, man.
And so it's cool that you got a little boost from the podcast. Maybe you saw something a little bit differently. That's awesome. Yeah. But you out there in the field, you're the one that's making it happen.
Yeah.
We're sitting back here maybe providing a little cover fire, a little cover and move going on. Yep. But the thing that's cool about that too is it proves what we talk about on here all the time, which is the human will is so strong. Yeah. But sometimes people go through their life, they didn't know that they had it. Right. And so they just got to get recognized that, hey, you've got this strong will that you can use. I was listening to an interview with Jack Black of Tenacious D. Sure. And he was talking about when he first discovered that he had a good singing voice. And he was in high school and he tried out for some school play, and then he was supposed to sing this part and he hit that note. And when he did, he said to himself, like, wow, I've got this thing. I got this Lamborghini. I didn't know I had this. I got this extra gear that I can kick into. And that's exactly what he says, by the way. He says, I got this extra gear. That's what I think people listen to podcasts, they all of a sudden realize they got this extra gear. They got this thing that they didn't know they had because they never had it tested before, never talked about it. No one ever showed it to them. They didn't recognize it for whatever reason. And all of a sudden they realize, oh, I got this human will that is stronger than my weakness. Yeah. And I'm just going to engage it. Watch this. Yeah. Nail biting? No more. Yeah, nope. Jelly donuts? Not happening. Yeah. Getting outworked at work? Not going to happen.
Yeah. And I think it's surprising because I'm one of those people, straight up, where I was surprised how little actual will it took to make these little changes, because and it's good because it does, like these books and stuff, it puts it into perspective where these guys are really exercising their will, with these crazy things. And all that is an illustration. That's it. It didn't even take me hearing that to understand that, it doesn't take much will to do a workout when I didn't feel like it. It didn't take that for me to recognize it. That's just an illustration. It took me actually doing it and being like, that wasn't hard at all. It seems hard. And here's another reason why people don't realize it. I think I was one of those people who didn't, because everywhere you look, you're always seeing like the 4 helpful tips to stop biting your nails, or the 4 all these like external things. Hey, go to a hypnotist. Go do something outside of yourself, kind of thing.
Put some nasty tasting nail polish on your fingers.
Yeah, so it makes you not want to bite all this stuff. Where really all you have to do, just how you always say, all you have to do is do it. You want to stop biting your nails? Okay, stop biting your nails. And if you really look at it like that, where like if you would have said to me, oh, you don't feel like working out? Go work out. If I would have been, okay, I don't feel like working out, so I'm going to go work out. And you just keep it that simple. That's all you got to do. Right, you'd be like, and you're done with the workout. You're like, dang, that was easy. I'm going to do that next time. You almost kind of look forward to doing it every once in a while.
You look forward to exercising your will. Just like you look forward to certain workouts sometimes, not always. Right. Sometimes I'm like, oh, good, I got squats today, and I don't want to do it. But sometimes you're like, squats, I'm going to get some. Yeah. So you can get the same feel about mobilizing your will.
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, exactly right. That's exactly what it is. That's actually one of the reasons. I was listening to, Brady guys, they have the Trooper Project podcast. I was listening to one with Arbel. Either Arbel or Abril. Yeah.
I don't know how you say it.
Arbel. Yeah.
I just know him from Israel. But I just know him from Twitter. Yeah. So I've never heard his name pronounced, so I don't know.
Savage, big,
Yeah, a beast.
And they were talking about what music do you listen to in the when you work out and stuff to get nuts. And bro, I don't listen to any music. And that's one of the reasons that's why I did it. I was like, I'm always trying to distract myself from the pain, and let me listen to this music to get me fired up or to make me feel good kind of mentally, and so I can get through the pain of, I don't know, Metcons or whatever.
Now I'm
like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to listen to no music. But it turns out I like that better now because you just feel more in touch with like what you're doing. But here's one. So I'll do what are they called? They're kind of like front squats, but you hold the 2 kettlebells like this.
Yeah.
They're like, I forget what they're called, but so I'll do 25 reps of 25. So it's hard. So when you get to about 12, you're like, oh, you gotta, you kind of start to hit a certain type of wall. And then when you get up to like 16, 18, you're like, oh, So as a result of that, I would play little numbers games in my mind. So I'd count backwards from 6, 5, 4. You know what I mean? So you just kind of like, oh, I'm approaching the end. It'll be done soon kind of thing. But what I started doing is like, nope, I'm going to count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in the beginning, I started to feel like, dang, when I'm getting up to 12, I'm like, oh my gosh, the pain is coming. And it comes. And you're like, dang. And then instead of playing more mental games, like, let's just count down from here so the end is, in sight. Nope, I'm going to count up now. And when you count up, the numbers going up give you this weird mental picture like the pain is coming more now because you're deeper into this thing, And it's like this, it's almost like mental abuse you're doing to yourself. But after a while, you kind of look forward to that. You kind of look forward to those higher numbers, It's like bring it kind of thing. And it essentially gets you even more fired up.
Yeah, that's good.
Bro, I'm telling you, embrace the pain. Anyway.
I agree.